Pain is temporary, but pride is forever. Hi there, Coach Sage, Canaday of SageRunning.com here with another training talk. Today we're going to talk about how to run a sub 430 mile, or about a 410 in the 1500 meters. Now I realize, mile is kind of an imperial thing. A lot of you race maybe the 1600 meters. Actual mile 1609 meters, it could be a second and a half, 2 seconds here and there, but cracking the 430 barrier is a great time, especially for a high school runner or anyone at any stage in their running career. It's pretty fast. It's not a sub 4 minute mile. I could never do that. But I did crack 430, and even getting down to like 415 I could talk about in this training talk. Now I have done a talk on how to run a sub 5 minute mile, so if you're still looking on cracking the magical 5 minute mile barrier or 1600 meter barrier, check that video out. I'll also put it down in the link in the description below, as well as link to it at the end of this video, and subscribe on here for more running tips, any service, any distance. But when you're looking at training for this, it comes down to a matter of basic speed at some degree, right? If you're trying to run a 430 per mile pace, right, it's under 68 seconds per 400 meter pace, right? You got to come through the 800 in 2:15. Well, if you can't run a single 800 meters all out in under 2:05, you probably aren't going to be able to come through in 2:15 and hold it together, right? You want to be probably closer to even 2 flat in the 800 meters. And to be able to run closer to 2 flat in the 800 meters, you probably need to be able to run at least 57 seconds, if not 56 seconds, for a flat out 400 meters. Now, I was not known for my sprint speed or any of that. My 400 meter PR is around 57, 56 seconds only. I never broke 2 flat, 2 minutes flat for the 800 meters. I ran 2 flat in college. But I was able to get my 1500 time down to 3:55, which is equivalent to about a 4:15 mile, give or take. In college I actually ran a full mile indoors, and my official PR for the full mile, 1609 meters, was 4:17 only. But in high school I did crack 4:30, barely. We ran a 4:09 1500, also a 4:28 full mile, and some of the workouts I did in high school that allowed me to do that, I think, kind of sold me short because I trained too hard. And so a big point of this training talk is not to train too hard. You see these workouts on paper, and we'll get into the workout paces here in a bit, as well as really specific indicators of cracking 430. But you see these workouts on papers that runners do or your teammates do, and then it doesn't translate into a very good race performance. You actually worked out at a level that was more advanced and higher than what you raced at. And we want to be hopefully working out more conservatively and not throwing up at the end of our track intervals and really hurting ourselves with bad running form or getting an injury, and then surprising ourselves in races and actually running faster times. So the whole idea with a lot of my training talks on here is the idea of building aerobic base, or building up your easy pace conversational mileage up to higher levels so that you have more strength, right? Maybe you're upping your mileage from 20 miles a week, or was that 32K a week only, and you're able to get it up over 30 miles a week or 50K a week, and then the next year you're able to average 40 miles a week. So building up that easy pace mileage base, not getting hurt, don't get hurt, but running more consistently, doing 5 to 10 mile runs all the time at easy aerobic pace is going to build that aerobic system. So get your mileage base up. It's going to be really hard, unless you're super talented, to crack 430 in the mile in less than 20 miles a week, right? I was running a lot of 40 miles a week in high school, and it's a trade-off with speed and endurance, and you don't want to get hurt. But if you're keeping those miles easy and you're slowly progressing and building up, you will see gains, fitness gains, in even your 800 meter times as well as your mile times, by building that aerobic base first, especially early on in the season. Build up that mileage, and then we worry about sprinkling in workouts. So some of the key workouts I'm going to go with is what we call threshold training or tempo run training, and I've done whole videos on this. The tried and true one that I've talked about in my latest 5K video, as well as in a lot of videos, is doing something like a 20-minute tempo run, right? 20 minutes after you warm up, do some strides and drills maybe, you jump into this 20-minute tempo run at a little slower than projected 10K pace. It could be around 5:40 mile pace. Maybe you start closer to 6-minute mile pace, and you get down towards 5:30 mile pace or 3:40 per kilometer pace. Maybe it gets down a little faster, but it's more of an 80% type of effort for 20 minutes. It's threshold training, right? Tempo run, lactate threshold, we throw those names around a lot. It's not supposed to be super hard. It's something you do early on, easy, getting in some quality working. It gets the breathing rate up a little bit higher than if you were out talking with your friends, right? You might not be able to carry on a conversation, but you could still say a couple sentences here and there. It's that kind of breathing rate and that kind of relative speed. A lot slower than your mile goal race pace, but and even slower than 5K race pace, but getting into that maybe projected 10K pace realm. And I know a lot of you probably haven't raced the 10K all out, but it would be around 10K to half marathon type of pace. So not a hard workout. It's more about moderate intensity, but it's more about going 20 minutes. And you could do variations on this. In college, we did this a lot, 3 times 8 minutes. And maybe when you're only going 8 minutes at a time, and then you jog 3 minutes in between each 8 minutes. So you do 8-minute tempo, up tempo, at a pretty steady pace, maybe close to 10K pace, 5:30, 5:20 mile pace. You come through that mile, 5:30, going for a 4:30 mile PR though, right? So it's a steady effort, and you're breaking it down into smaller segments. It's all in the realm of what we call threshold training, tempo run training. But that's the kind of stuff that really builds your strength and endurance. If you have the basic speed, it's all about building the strength and endurance, extending that endurance. So if you could run an 800 meters close to two flat. I ran 2:02 in high school, and in college I got down to 2 flat. But my mile PR, my 1500 PR, went way down in college because I was training mainly for 5K and 10K. But after that big aerobic base and doing 10K, 5K training, I was just able to bring out more of my speed, which was only 57-second 400 speed, and run that 3:55 1500. And I really tried to crack 2 in the 800. I never could. But maybe you're a lot faster than me. I know a lot of you young whippersnappers could go sub 2 in the 800, and maybe your mile's still lagging. Your mile you might be still trying to crack that 4:30. So, if you're growing in high school, in your teenage years, maybe you're only running 2:10, 2:15. Well, you go through a growth spurt, you get a lot stronger. You might be running 2:05 the next year, right? You could improve a lot, especially in that age range, especially when you start increasing your aerobic base. Now, specific workouts for a sub 4:30-minute miler, as you get into the season, you start doing things like 400-meter repeats. The tried and true one. Some coaches do variations where you do ladders and you build up from 200 meters, 400 meters, 600 meters. Did I skip 400 meters in there? But I like straight up 400-meter repeats. So we look at a Jack Daniels distance running formula type of rep workout. Kind of do something in between that, right? Goal pace is to run under 68 seconds, 67.5 seconds per 400 meters. Well, if you do a workout like 8 times 400 meters with a 2-minute rest, and you're running faster around 68 seconds, that's a pretty good stimulus, right? You're getting used to that race pace. And maybe you end with 4 times 200, and those 200s you run under 32 seconds each, right? So you're working on your finishing kick. That's good running form mechanics. It's good in spiking your heart rate up, and it's good at dialing into that goal mile race pace. You're doing 8 by 400 though. That's 2 miles worth of work basically, right? 3,200 meters worth. You might even do 10. In high school, I did 10 times 400 meters, and I tried to average 65 seconds. I would run 64 seconds. That was way too hard. I'd be like, grabbing the bleachers on the side of the track, just gasping for air, feeling sick to my stomach, form breaking down, trying to thrash these 65-second 400s and do 10 of them. Way too hard. I couldn't hold 65-second per 400 pace in my 1500s or miles because I was only a 4:28 type of miler. So it was too hard, and I was training without a good point in mind. It would have been better if I dialed it back and said, okay, I'm going to run 68 to 66 seconds average on these 400s and keep my form more in control. Now that's with a 2-minute rest. Now other variations on that workout, we got repeat 400s. Maybe we sprinkle in some 200s once a week as well, right? 12 times 200, 34 to 32 seconds a piece with a minute and a half rest in between each one, right? Something like that. that works on getting the extra gears even faster than your mile goal pace. Mile goal pace being, what is that, 33.5 to 34 seconds per 200 meters, right? The other workout, we still keep in some threshold stuff like the 20-minute tempo run or some element of a long run once a week as well, because we're trying to still keep that aerobic base, build that mileage up. Now, if you're racing the mile seriously and you're in a competitive type of track season, or you're just training on your own maybe right now, you probably want to be racing some all-out 800 meters or some all-out rustbuster 1,000 meters, some shorter races where you do time trials. And our mid-distance program, when I was in college, I didn't run the 1,500 or mile. I was too slow for that. I was like the 10th slowest guy on the team. We had guys running close to 4 flat in the mile and 3:43 in the 1,500. But those guys would do some time trials sometimes where they would do an all-out kilometer. They'd race the 800 meters flat out a couple times, or at least do like a 4x8 relay or a DMR, because it's going to take you a while to race yourself into shape, so to speak, to really get to peak fitness in an event like the mile. You need some anaerobic component. You need that feeling of lactic acid. And if you're time trialing some 800 meters closer to 2 flat, that's going to be a good sign for your mile training, right? The other component, the other types of workouts we would look to get your mile, to really improve your mile time, would be doing longer, more VO2 max style reps, or maximum aerobic capacity types of reps, where you'd be doing 800 meter repeats. 800 meter repeats, or even 1,000 meter repeats, even better usually. Sometimes you could start off with 800, 6 times 800 meters, and you're doing these pretty fast, right? They're not mile race pace, but maybe you're running around 230, 235, 230, 228, sub 5-minute mile pace in these 800 meter repeats. You're doing 6 times 800. It's a good VO2 max workout. Likewise, you could be doing 1,000 meter repeats, 5 times 1,000 meters, 305, maybe work it down to 302 with a 2-minute rest in between. It's a good VO2 max workout. It's a long strength workout for a miler because you're running kilometer repeats, right? And you're doing over 5K worth of work, but it's a very good aerobic system stimulus, and you're running just over a little bit slower than your mile race pace, but getting kind of closer to in between 3,200 meter race pace, your 2-mile race pace, and that 5K goal pace. So good aerobic system development, good long reps. If you got the shorter reps, you're still doing things like strides, 4 to 6 times 100 meters, a couple times a week, working on those sprint mechanics almost. Don't pull a muscle, don't hurt yourself, as well as that element of a long run. That's a good in-season type of training cycle and program to be doing if you want to reach peak fitness in racing the mile or 1,500. Thanks so much for subscribing on here. Check out the sub 5-minute mile video if you're still looking to crack that magical barrier. And definitely like this video, share it on social media if you like these types of videos. I'm on Instagram and TikTok at Sage Canaday. Follow us on Sage Running for training plans, 5K, 10K, any service, any distance. Thanks to Patreon supporters for really making this possible. Hope you're doing well, and stay tuned for more.